Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're in Canada right now and you're thinking, can I get a student visa without leaving the country? This video is for you. It's possible to do this, but only in specific situations, and you must follow the process carefully. Even if you want to apply from outside Canada, you will find this video helpful, and trust me, you would want to save it. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to apply for a study permit, also known as study visa, from inside Canada. I'll cover who is eligible, the application steps, documents you need, how to get accepted to a school with the financial proof you need, writing a strong statement of purpose as well. I'll also cover what happens after you apply, common mistakes, and what to do if you get refused, and also what to do once you get approved. I will also answer some common questions like, can I apply without IELTS? Can I work while waiting? Stick around because I'll also share a free step-by-step study in Canada guide at the end. Note that this is not immigration advice. This is only for education and information purposes, okay? And the source of this information is the canada.ca website. Alright, let's dive in. Who can apply for a study permit from inside Canada? First, let's clear up who is actually allowed to apply for a study permit from within Canada. This is really important because not everyone in Canada can apply without leaving. RCC, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, has specific eligibility categories for in-Canada applications. You must fall into one of these categories. 1. You already have a valid permit. If you hold a valid study permit or a work permit in Canada, you can apply for a new study permit from inside Canada. For example, maybe you're working in Canada on a work permit and now you got accepted to a college. You can apply without leaving. 2. Your family has a valid permit. If your spouse, common law partner, or parent has a valid study or work permit, you can apply from inside Canada. This is common for spouses of international students or workers or children whose parents are on permit in Canada. 3. You're a minor child studying in Canada. If you're a minor under 18 already in Canada and attending primary or secondary school, you can apply from within Canada. So for example, you have been studying at the kindergarten to grade 12 level and you now need to go to college. If you're here on an official exchange program or as a visiting student, you can apply for a study permit from inside Canada. Perhaps you came for a semester on a visitor visa for an exchange program and now you want to continue studying, you are eligible. 5. You completed a prerequisite course in Canada. If you finished a short-term course like a 6-month or less course which didn't require a study permit that was required for you to be accepted into a DLI program, you can apply inside Canada. For example, you came and completed an English language course or a prerequisite class needed for your main program. Now you can apply for the full study permit without leaving. 6. Temporary resident permit holders. If you or your spouse or common law partner or dependent child holds a temporary resident permit valid for more than 6 months, you can apply from inside. A temporary resident permit is a specific document given in special cases if you're otherwise inadmissible or in certain humanitarian cases. 7. Inland sponsorship applicants. If you're being sponsored for permanent residence like a spouse or partner sponsorship and you have already applied for PR from inside Canada, you can apply for a study permit here as well, assuming you're otherwise eligible. 8. Subject of an unenforceable removal order. If you or your family member have a removal order that can't be executed, for example, certain refugee claimants that are waiting, you can apply inside Canada. 9. Family members of permit holders. If the spouse, common law partner, or child of certain people working or present in Canada, like athletes on Canadian teams or media representatives, clergy, military personnel on assignment, or accredited foreign representatives like diplomats, you can apply from within Canada. 10. Refugee claimants and their family. If you're a refugee claimant in Canada or a dependent family member of one, you can apply for a study permit inside Canada. Many do this to continue education while awaiting a refugee hearing. Now, that's a long list, I know, but if you're in Canada and you don't fit any of those categories, you typically may not apply for a study permit from inside the country. RCC states clearly that most people can't apply for a study permit while in Canada unless they meet one of these exceptions. Knowing my audience, I know the question that is on the top of your mind now. The most common question that I get on this is, what if I'm just in Canada as a visitor or a tourist? Can I apply from here? The answer is generally no. Simply having visitor status is not enough to qualify for an in-Canada study permit application. If you're a visitor without any of the ties or scenarios that I mentioned above, you'll likely have to apply for your study permit from outside Canada. In practice, that might mean leaving Canada or, listen carefully, applying online and having the application processed as if you were outside and you would wait for approval before starting your studies. So, bottom line, make sure that you fall into one of the eligible categories before you try to apply from inside. If not, you should apply from your home country or another country where you're a legal resident. Now that you know that you're eligible to apply from inside Canada, let's go over the big picture of the application process. I'll break it down into clear steps. Step 1. Get accepted by a Canadian school or a DLI. Before you can even apply for a study permit, you must have a letter of acceptance or an LOA from a designated learning institute in Canada. A DLI is basically a school, university, college, etc. that is approved by the government to host international students. Without an acceptance letter from a DLI, your study permit application will be refused right off the bat. So your first task is to apply to schools, get admitted, and obtain that letter of acceptance. Don't worry, I'll talk more in a moment about how to get an LOA and tips for that, including whether you need IELTS or not. Step 2. Gather all required documents. Once you have your letter of acceptance, you will need to collect a bundle of documents for the study permit application. This includes proofs of identity, finances, among other things. I'm going to cover the required documents in detail in the next session. It's crucial to get everything in order before you apply because missing documents can cause delays or refusals. Step 3 is to apply online through the IRCC website. These days, all study permit applications are done online. Whether you're applying from outside or inside Canada, you have to submit electronically. There are paper applications only for people who can't apply online due to a disability or other very limited exceptions. You will make an account on the IRCC portal. If you haven't already, you fill out the application forms and you upload your documents as scanned files or PDFs. Now, because you're applying from inside Canada, when the system asks where you're applying from, you indicate inside Canada, assuming you meet one of those categories that we discussed. Step 4 is to pay the fees and submit. As part of the online application, you will need a credit or a debit card to pay the fees. A standard study permit application costs $150 Canadian processing fees. Additionally, most people need to pay for biometrics, so there's a biometrics fee of $85 as well. So biometrics is your fingerprints and your photos, which I'll explain shortly. So budget about $235 Canadian for the fees. Now, once you fill your forms and you upload all the documents, you pay the fees and you hit submit. Step 5, get your biometrics done. After submitting, if you need to give biometrics, like almost anyone between the ages of 14 and 79 needs to give it, unless you gave them in a previous visa application in the last 10 years. IRCC will send you a biometrics instruction letter within a few days of applying. That letter lets you book an appointment at a designated service location to have your fingerprints and photo taken. Since you're in Canada, you book this at a Service Canada location that offers biometrics. Try to do this ASAP. You typically have only 30 days to give biometrics after the date on the letter. Now, let me give you a tip. When you applied, you paid $85 biometric fee upfront, which you should. Then you just bring your letter and your passport to the appointment center. If you forgot to pay, it could delay things. So always pay it with the application to avoid delays. Step 6 is app processing when you wait for a decision from IRCC. This is usually the most trying time for people because you're waiting and you don't know what's going to happen. The truth is, once IRCC has your application and your biometrics, you are now in a waiting game. Officers will review your documents, your forms to make sure that you've submitted everything and that you meet the requirements. They may contact you if they need additional information or documents. For example, sometimes they might request an updated document or ask you to undergo a medical exam or provide a police certificate if those are required and you hadn't provided them. During processing, you should keep an eye on your email and your online account for updates. They also have an online status tracker. They introduced it to make it easier to follow your application. You can use that by entering your application number and your UCI to see any updates in process. Now, how long will this processing take? It can vary, right? But the good news is that applications for an initial study permit from inside Canada are often processed fairly quickly. Recently, IRCC posted processing time from in-Canada study permit around 4 weeks at the time of making this video. I've seen many cases of people getting approved in a month or even a few weeks. However, if you're extending a study permit, which is not the case here, but FYI, the wait is much longer. Extensions are taking 6 to 7 months in 2025. Now, since we're talking about a first study permit application from inside Canada, expect roughly a month, but always check IRCC's website for current times. It's also wise to apply as early as possible. Don't wait until the last minute before your program starts. Step 7 is the decision time. It's either approval or refusal. Once an officer has made a decision, IRCC will notify you. You'll get a message in your online account. If you are approved, congrats! You'll get an approval letter, and because you're already in Canada, IRCC will mail the actual study permit to your address in Canada. If you were outside Canada, you would get an approval letter to use at the border. But since you're inside Canada, they just send the permit to you by mail. If you are refused, IRCC will send you a refusal letter explaining in general why you were refused. Don't panic. I'll talk later about what to do if you get a refusal and how you might overcome it. Step 8 is you start studying and you follow the rules. Assuming approval, you can now begin your studies at the DLI. We'll discuss in the last section what your responsibilities are on a study permit, working rules, etc. But essentially, once you have that study permit, you're a legal international student in Canada. Now, that's the high-level process. Now, let's get into some of those steps in detail, especially documents and requirements that you will need to prepare. Putting together a complete application package is key to success. Let's go through the documents that you will need to apply for a study permit inside Canada. According to IRCC, you generally need to include proof of acceptance, proof of identity, and proof of financial support, plus some additional items in certain cases. Now here's the breakdown. Letter of acceptance, that's your proof of letter of acceptance. This is the LOA from your DLI, basically the formal acceptance letter from the college or university or school that admitted you. The letter should be on official letterhead and contain details about your program, start date, duration, and any condition of acceptance. You will upload this letter with your application. Provincial or territorial acceptance letter, the PAL, this is a brand new requirement that started late 2024 or so. Many applications now must include that PAL with their study permit application. A PAL is a letter from the province or the territory's government confirming that you have been allocated a study space in that region. And yes, this applies to inside Canada applications as well, not just outside. Now, passport, which is your proof of identity. You need a valid passport or a travel document. You provide a scan of the photo page of your passport, and any other pages with stamps or visas might be required as well. The application guide will specify. If you're inside Canada, obviously you have a passport that got you here. So just ensure that it's not expired. Ideally, your passport should be valid for the duration of your study program. If your passport expires earlier, I might only issue your study permit up to the passport expiry date. You also may need to include passport size photographs that meet certain specifications with your application. You also need proof of financial support. This is a big one. You must show that you have enough money to pay your tuition and your living expenses in Canada for yourself and any other family members that are coming with you. IRCC has very clear guidelines on how much money you need to show. Documents for financial proof can include bank statements, the last 4 months, bank drafts, proof of tuition payment, letter from a person or institution that is giving you money, scholarship letters, student loan approvals, see if you have one, and many others. You can use multiple documents. The key is to show that you have funds readily available for your first year in Canada, that's your tuition and living expenses. If you have a sponsor, like a parent paying for you, include a letter from them and their financial documents as well. You need proof of current status in Canada. Since you are applying from inside Canada, you should include proof of your current immigration status in Canada. For example, if you're on a work permit, include a copy of your work permit. If you're on visitor status, include a copy of your entry stamp or visitor record. Basically, you want to show that you're currently in Canada legally. Immigration medical exam may be required. I think it's usually required in most cases. You have to do it with an approved panel physio. You can do an upfront medical before applying to be safe, but that's optional. But it can speed up things if you suspect that you might need it. If you do that, include proof of that medical exam with your application. You might also need police certificates. Generally, it is not required for a study permit unless you have specific circumstances, but you can request police clearance certificates for security or background checks if necessary. This is not common at all, unless you declared that you have a criminal record or any security issues. But just be aware that it's a possible document that you might need to submit. You need a letter of explanation or a statement of purpose. While this is not technically required by the document checklist, IRCC recommends including a letter of explanation with your application. This is often called the Statement of Purpose or SOP. It's your personal letter where you explain why you want to study in Canada and that you understand your own responsibilities as a student. This letter can make a big difference, especially if there are any unusual aspects to your case. I have done an in-depth video before about how to write a strong SOP and I will link it in the description below. Make sure you write a strong SOP because it's super important for convincing the visa officer that you're a genuine student. And of course, you should add any other documents that you might need for specific purposes depending on your situation. IRCC will not process your application unless they have everything. Missing documents can lead to delays or even refusal. It's best to include it correctly the first time because they might not ask. A complete application leads to faster processing. So now that you have your letter of acceptance and you know your documents, one major piece of the puzzle remains. That's showing you have enough money to study in Canada. Canada wants to ensure that international students have enough money to support themselves while studying, so they don't end up in a bad situation or burden on the system. This is why proof of financial support is a critical part of your application. Financial insufficiency is one of the top reasons for study permit refusals. So don't take this lightly. Next up, let's talk about that letter of explanation or SOP. Your chance to speak directly to the visa officer evaluating your case. The SOP or the letter of explanation is a document that you write to explain your motivations and plans. Think of it as your personal narrative that ties all the pieces of your application together for the visa officer. It doesn't list it as a mandatory document on the checklist. They do mention that you should include one to help the officer understand your goals. And trust me, a well-written SOP can make a big difference in borderline cases. Now, what should your SOP cover? At a minimum, I already suggest that you explain why you want to study in Canada and that you understand your responsibilities as a student. That is, you will leave or change status when your permit expires. You will focus on studies, etc. A strong SOP goes deeper than that. Anyway, you need to explain your background and why you are taking this program. So describe your academic or your work background, how it leads to your decision to pursue this new program in Canada. Be clear on why this program and the school makes sense for you. For example, I completed a bachelor's in business in my home country in 2018 and I have since worked 3 years in marketing. I realized I need more specialized knowledge in digital marketing to advance my career. I researched programs and I found that the marketing management diploma at SYZ College in Canada is a perfect fit for me because of its focus on real-world digital campaigns and co-op opportunities. This shows the officer a logical progression. You're not just randomly picking a course. It ties into your career plans. The key is to convince them that studying is your primary purpose and you're not just using the study permit as a sneaky way to move to Canada without a real study intent. You also need to show ties to your home country. If possible, emphasize any ties to your home country or reasons that you would return, such as family obligations, a job offer back home, property, or simply your overall plan to utilize your Canada education in your home country's context. Write in a clear, professional but personal tone. Don't copy generic templates off the internet. Officers see thousands of SOPs. A genuine story stands out. So be truthful, don't contradict your documents as well. Keep it concise and well organized, maybe 4 to 7 pages at the most, right? Use paragraphs or bullets for different points to make it easy to read. Remember, the visa officer might spend only a few minutes on your file, so make sure that your SOP is quick to read and it gives them the information that they need to be satisfied. I've seen that a solid SOP can tip the balance in your favor, especially if your case isn't straightforward. So people often ask, can you start studying or working while waiting? This is a critical question. If you're in Canada and changing status, say from visitor to student, you cannot start studying at your DLI until your study permit is approved. You must wait for approval. Though if your program begins and you're still waiting, talk to the school. They often let you attend a few weeks of classes while your permit is in process, especially if you applied in time. But officially, you're supposed to have a permit to study beyond 6 months in Canada. If you were already studying, like you were a minor or something like that, you could continue. But most likely, if you needed a permit, you weren't in post-secondary yet. Also, if you are wondering if you can start working while waiting, the answer is generally no. You cannot work until you have the study permit and you start your studies with the proper conditions. If you're coming from a visitor status, you had no work authorization, and applying for a study permit doesn't magically give you the right to work, so you can't work while waiting for it. If you were on a work permit that is still valid and you applied for a study permit, you actually can continue to work on your work permit until it expires. You have valid status as a worker until that date. But once your work permit expires, if your study permit is still in process, you cannot work during that gap because you don't yet have study work authorization and your old work permit is expired. Only when the study permit is approved and you start school can you work part-time under the study permit rules. So plan your finances accordingly. You might have a period where you are not authorized to work. Now, while waiting, can you leave Canada? It's possible, but it can complicate things for you. If you leave Canada while an inland application is in process, you might be seen as applying from outside Canada and might have to re-enter on a different status. It's generally recommended that you stay in Canada until a decision is made, or if you must travel, seek legal advice. So it's decision time, and for you, it's an approval. When RCC approves the application, you'll get a message in your account saying a decision has been made, and you'll find a letter of approval and a letter of introduction in your RCC account, whether you're inside Canada or outside Canada. After approval, you do not need to exit and re-enter Canada or go to a border for any reason. That's only if you applied outside and you had to activate the study permit upon entry. Inland approval is fully valid without travel. They mail it to you and you're all set. Once you have the permit or even the approval letter, you can show it to your school to prove that you're now a study permit holder. You can now enroll full-time and attend classes if you weren't already, and you can apply for a social insurance number to be able to work. Now, if the decision is a refusal, which is something we hope doesn't happen, but sometimes applications do get refused, the refusal letter will typically contain generic refusal reasons. Like, I am not satisfied that you have sufficient funds, or I am not satisfied that your intent is genuine, or ties to your home country are not strong, or things like that. So what you should do if you are refused is you should request your GCMS note. Your GCMS note will give you the detail as to why you were refused. Usually in the refusal letter, what you get is just like the generic reason or the broad reason, but the GCMS note will tell you why, and it is reading that GCMS note and understanding why you were refused so that you can address it the next time you apply. That will actually help you to get your application approved the next time. This can be frustrating, but it's not the end of the road. I will do a more detailed video about the requirements, but that will be posted on my Study in Canada community. So if you want to get the full detailed video, you want to be part of that community. You will also get other step-by-step guides in that community. So sign up for the Canada Japa system to be part of the community where I do a full detailed video that is too long for YouTube, but it will be in that community. The link to sign up is in the description. Now, let's talk about the common mistakes to avoid. When applying for a study permit, especially from inside Canada, where maybe you feel a bit more at ease, it's easy to slip up on some details. Here are some common mistakes that can hurt your application. Make sure to avoid this. The first one is incomplete application. The number one issue is missing documents or information. As we covered, ensure you submit all the required documents, like everything that you need. Fill every section of the application forms as well. Double check before you submit that you have submitted everything. A missing document can delay your application. It can even lead to a refusal because the officer doesn't have enough information. Second one is proof of funds. This is perhaps the top refusal reason that we see, not showing enough money or adequate proof of funds. Some people upload one bank statement with just barely 20,000 and they think it's fine. It is not. You need to show enough money to cover everything that you need and have robust evidence that the money is available and accessible to you. The third one is poorly written or no statement of purpose. Yeah, if you include one, it gives you a very good chance. But if you include a generic one or a bad one, it can actually hurt your chances, right? So make sure that you submit a strong SOP. And if you need help with writing a strong SOP, you can reach out to me at sheyi@relocatecanada.biz and I'll tell you how I can help. Number 4 mistake is choosing the wrong program in the visa officer's eyes. Sometimes an application is refused because the program of study doesn't seem logical given the applicant's background. This would usually go under purpose of visit not consistent with temporary stay. Another mistake is applying when you are not eligible for inside Canada candidates. As we discussed previously, you're only allowed to apply from inside Canada if you meet certain categories, right? If you don't, your application could be refused. Sometimes RCC will just process it via the outside of Canada office in order not to complicate things. People also make the mistake of timing issues. So if you apply too late, like your visitor status is about to expire in a week and you apply for a study permit, you might run into status problems. Ideally, maintain your legal status while the application is in process. If your current status will expire, apply to extend it or change it before it expires. By avoiding these mistakes, you set yourself up for a smoother application. I need to mention that there is no formal appeal for study permit because there isn't an appeal process for temporary resident visas like study permits in Canada, unlike some other countries. The options are reapply, or if there was a clear error in law or procedure, you can potentially seek a judicial review. Judicial review is a legal challenge and requires a lawyer. It's typically only worthwhile if you believe that the officer made an unreasonable or a fair decision. In my Canada Japan System Forum, we have had a lot of people apply the second, third, fourth, fifth times and got approved simply by following these steps that I have shown here. In there, I even go deeper on how to address these issues. In summary, a refusal is a setback, but it's not a permanent roadblock. RCC even says applicants may reapply after you have addressed the reasons for your refusal. Many people are successful on a second, third, fourth time with a stronger application, so don't lose hope. Applying for a study visa from inside Canada is absolutely doable if you plan correctly. Make sure that you're eligible to apply from within, get a good school acceptance letter, prepare your documents meticulously, show strong finances, and tell your story clearly. If you do all that, you have a great chance of success. By studying in Canada, you're opening the door to quality education and future opportunities, so it's worth the effort. Please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content on studying and immigrating to Canada. Drop any questions you have in the comments. I try to answer all of them, and who knows, your question might inspire my next video. Don't forget to join my Study in Canada program if you need hand-holding and detailed step-by-step guide to study in Canada. The details are in the link here and also in the description. Good luck with your application, and I hope to see you studying in Canada soon. Take care and see you next time. Bye.